and good afternoon or morning, depending on your time zone out there today. Welcome to Virtual Thursday, our 8th installment for the year. And today we'll be reviewing inspections, best practices. My name is Mark Wolf, lead international trainer for emergency reporting. Online with me today, we have Tom Lewis, our enterprise training manager, James Andurette, regional trainer, Greg Simmons, regional trainer, and Mike Reynolds, regional trainer, should be with me today. Primarily, I'm going to be presenting, and those other fellows will be answering questions. Speaking of questions, if you have any questions for the presentation today, please put them into the chat. We'll get to them all. If something really timely is put in that we need to demo live on the screen, one of my co-workers there will break in and we'll get to it. And we will get to all of your questions. We just ask you to please stay on topic for the day today. I want to mention, as always, our training opportunities that we have for you. Like the presentation today, Virtual Thursdays. Hey, they're free. If it's free, it's for me. Typically on the first Thursday, 1100 hours Pacific time, please adjust it to your time zone. Occasionally, we will run those on the third Thursday as well, as we have material to present to you. You can request and receive online training. We do provide that typically in 3-hour blocks. We can customize those training to meet your needs. On-site trainings, we are getting a little free with that. Some of the COVID restrictions are lifting and we will be out and about traveling. So if you had ideas that you want to do an on-site training, please contact us and we will get you some information on how you can arrange for that. And as always, our regional training academies, we are starting them back up as well as some of the, again, COVID restrictions are lifting. And we want to point out to you that in June, from June 8th through the 10th, we will be in Philadelphia. This particular slide is on your carousel on the sign-in page. You can select it for more information on attending that regional training academy. Again, that is in June. You can also go to our marketing site. It's www.emergencyreporting.com. Go to the customer success section and look up events and trade shows, and you will find the Regional Training Academy listed there, or shoot us an email at training@emergencyreporting.com. And with that, we are going to jump right into the program today. I will get my correct screen up showing. And we need this over here. Okay, so once again, inspections, best practices. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them into the chat. We appreciate that. And we're going to get right into it by going into the occupancy module. And the first place we're going to visit here, and we're going to link everything today to getting your inspections recorded in a professional manner and try to get some efficiency for you. So we're going to talk about just a handful of the settings that are really critical for setting up your inspections to work the best for you. So we go to occupancy and settings, and you'll note down a little bit on this page is the section for inspections. We're going to focus in here today and talk about a few of these. The first place we're going to go is inspection types. And essentially this list that you can customize in your particular ER account for any type of inspection that you do, such as I've got one here listed as an annual inspection. That is a typical language you all use for our annual fire safety inspections. You may have a type, for example, as in a turned in a complaint. So somebody phoned in or came in with a complaint. That's an inspection type. Would be maybe a non-routine one. Maybe we're inspecting a fire alarm protection system. One of the all-time favorites out there you'll see now is the good old food truck inspections that we're all getting hit with because those are so popular out there now. Couple other notable types is a plan review. It's quite a common item to run as an inspection to maintain your record keeping for a plan review process. If you have that locally, we simply call that plan review. And in addition to that, pre-plan. So if you're doing pre-planning work, you can record that as an inspection type to maintain records, to demonstrate to ISO or some other organization that yes, we did go out and do pre-plans, and here's the records for them. You can use the reports available for the occupancy module to document that for them. So again, inspection types. What type do you do? Get them into the list here. One other thing I'm going to mention to you is linking them to the daybook activity codes that you have. Now, when you do it like we have here for our annual inspection, you can see right in the center column here that we have that linked to our annual inspection, fire safety inspection annual activity code that we have set up in our admin module. And when we effectively do this, now let me show you how we'll do it. We'll select to edit this inspection type. This list is a drop down, and this will be all of the activity codes you have in your admin module for your daily log. And quite common to see a couple different ways that we do this. First is we'll have a generic activity code that will cover all inspection activities. Or in your particular case, you may want to define it a little bit finer than that, and you will put a activity code in for every inspection type that you would conduct, and then you link it up in this manner there, and we'll save that. And the effectiveness of this is whenever we would authorize our inspection, it's going to throw an entry to our daily log with the time we started and the inspection type and that basic information on that. And if you're requiring, or you even just enter your ending time, it will put that into the daily log entry, and then you can do some quick and down and dirty reporting on how much time and man hours you spend doing your inspection activities out there. So that's what we can do with the inspection types. Also, I will point out, you can also, if you bill for your inspections, you can link fees with your inspections in that inspection billable amount column right there. And the premise of that will be is if I go down to this next one, the annual billable inspection type, if in this case we have a $75 fee for that, we can link that to this type of inspection, and we can also display that on the inspection form that we print out and deliver to the local occupancies there after we conduct our inspection. So that's first and foremost inspection types. Get that list built to whatever is going to satisfy your needs within your department. And now we're going to jump down to the all-time favorite of ours, the inspection forms. Essentially, I would just recommend that basically you would create an inspection form to also meet your needs of the types of inspections that you do. I've got one here highlighting right now for annual inspection, just a general business form. We developed this at my department quite some time ago and refined it over the years. You can see we have a couple different versions available here. This one happens to be version 2.2. And we maintain that one. If we need to update it, we'll update the version number to perhaps 2.3 for a minor revision, and then maybe 3.0 if we do a major revision in that form. That's how we track the length of the inspection form itself. Now, as a practice, what we want to do, let's say we do update this particular inspection form, which I'm going to do in a moment, because I want to show you some signature option items here. I would just update the number of it, which actually I'm going to do a copy and paste here just to make my life a little bit easier here. And then it comes in a moment, I'll show you how we're going to generate a new form based upon our old form. That's a common question we get, so we want to touch on it briefly. So let's say I've got this form, I need to revise it a little bit. And you remember the world famous warning you get when you lock an inspection form that you'll never ever be able to change this in the future. I would just not worry about that, because you can by creating a new form based on the old form. And to talk about the signature options, which is really important to consider, we're going to generate a new form, and we're just doing that copy paste operation. I'm going to make this my version 2.3, and we're going to add that form. And we have it here. So now we're going to go ahead and select edit, take a look at this, and you can see we have this broke down into the categories and sequenced in the order that we want them to appear. And as you can see, we've got the text in here, or sequencing number. Now, a couple of things that's important in here as well is if we bill, you can bill for individual inspection questions as well. Let me select my edit pencil and we'll come in here. So let's say this question, it may apply that there's a, maybe it's a $20 fee associated with that. And if I want to list my fire codes that cover this particular inspection question, we would go to the codes that we imported and set up, and then we would select it. And you can see this is strictly for test because we just had some a little bit of text put in here, and save it. There's another important step that I'm going to cover in just a moment to get the fire inspection codes to display right in your inspection forms when you send it out to your occupancies. And I will show you that in just a moment. Let's go on all the way down here to the bottom and talk about the signature options. If you desire for your inspector signature to be visible on the form, we need to check that box, and then we have to check the boxes for what do we want to display. I always like to point out for the displaying the phone number, we want to make sure, especially for the people out there conducting inspections, that we put a work phone number in for them. Put a phone number on their contact page in their personnel record, tag it as a work number so we can display it right on the inspection form, which would be the appropriate number for the public to call that particular inspector, whether it's their desk phone number or a phone number for your department or office. An email address is a valuable tool for that. Down here for the actual signatures inspection, or the inspector signature, pardon me, we can display a signature line, or more commonly, we're seeing now that people are using our signature capture feature. I want to point that out to you. And also for the representative, do we want to provide a line on the report for them to sign, wet ink signature, or do we want to do a screen capture of their signature? Also, do we want to display the next inspection date on the form? And if we want to see those billable amounts that are available out there that you put in for that inspection type or the observation values, you have to select this box to display that information. And the closing notes. If you have closing notes to put into the inspection form, you have to check that box and get them entered in. Copy paste works. And we'll just type in a little bit of text here. Generally speaking, what we have in this section, I would call the legalese, perhaps that you need to send out, maybe an appeal process and so forth that you need to advise the occupancy of. This is the proper place to put them. And when we check that box, whenever we send this form out, they will be included on that printout for them. Then we get our edits done and so forth, checking and double checking the inspection form signature options, because some of these are retained if we create a form based upon our old form. A few of the other ones are not. So you always want to verify that you've got them checked appropriately on this form before you lock it, or you'll have to go back in and revise it. Here's that famous warning I was talking about before. We're just going to go ahead and lock this up, and we'll be able to use it out there in the field. And that's the one I just edited right here. So let's talk about a couple other things here with inspection forms. And I want to mention agency friends. And I can go into this particular account. I'm just going to put in a name of testing for the form. And creating a form from, if I have an agency friends and they're sharing their inspection forms with me, their department will be down here, and the department I retired from is listed here, and they have a few forms in here that I can pull in from their account. This will save you absolutely boatloads of man hours and time if you have some good solid agency friends and they're sharing the inspection forms with you. Just that simple. I just went and grabbed their inspection form, and it's down here. This one I just labeled as testing. So I'm going to go over a couple things in the admin module in just a few moments. after I show you a couple other important settings that we want to talk about here. How to set up agency friends, and also the permissions you need to get into recording inspections that are available in the admin module that you'll need to touch. Okay, let's go back out to our settings, and we are going to talk about the observation values. Inspection question observation values. So each particular question, you're able to select these observation values. Typically in a clean, brand new account, you're going to see 3 of them in here, and they're going to be labeled fail. You're going to see one labeled not observed and then pass. You can add any kind of text and language that you need locally. You see we have quite a few in here. Now, one thing I want to point out to you, when you are creating your observation values, once you create them, you cannot edit them. And there's a layered approach here with this, and I want to show you that by selecting this add new observation value up here. Specifically, if you are using any kind of billing in your observations, your inspection questions, or if you are using the fire code feature in the system, you have to select these 2 boxes, show fire code and observation billable. And I'm just going to label this test for today's edition of Virtual Thursday. By selecting this observation value, if I have billable amounts in my inspection questions and fire codes attached to them, they will display. If I don't select them, they will not. It's kind of a common thing we're seeing is people don't know that they need to select those 2. In addition to that, is once we save this, you can't see what you selected with those. So I just created this observation value, test for V Thursday 2021-8. I cannot edit the text, and I cannot look to see if I have those boxes checked. So be aware of that as you're creating your observation values to make it work with the fire codes and your billable amounts. Okay, one more setting we're going to talk about before we jump quickly to the admin module to show you a couple things is we are going to discuss the inspection results. And with inspection results, just think of after I conclude my inspection, what is the terminology language that I need to pass along to the occupancy? Did they pass the inspection? Are we issuing them a correction notice? You may call it a notice of violations or a deficiency notice. Any kind of text or terminology that you can use, you can put into this list. There's also a couple very, very important settings in here. And I'll just use this. We'll go up to correction notice issued. We'll select this little plus sign out here to the left to expand this and open it up. Here's my result. You can update the text here if you need to. You can also put in a description of it. And we've got these 2 boxes down here. These are the important part about this observation value. And I relate it like this. If this observation value or inspection result is one that I want my folks to go back to verify that they've corrected the fire safety violations that we've written up, you want to check this bottom box, require reinspection. This will force your people to submit a reinspection and manually schedule that within the inspection itself. You can also check this top one, which allows a follow-up. What this does is creates a link in the inspection record that will bring up the filled out inspection form that we use with all the violations and photographs that I wrote up on it. Either one of those. The bottom one is, I think, the most important one. If you intend to have your folks go back to do a reinspection after a period of time to make sure that the violations have been corrected, check that bottom box. When you get done with that, just submit it and you'll be good to go with that. And I'll show you how this ties in to the inspection process here in a little bit. Okay, I mentioned we're going to go out to the admin module. There's a couple important things we want to talk about there. First, we're going to visit security roles and permissions. There's a very important setting to allow access and to add inspection records for an occupancy that we have to have out here. And I'm going to jump into this auto-generated role number 2. Have Aaron go to the permissions. and then down to the occupancy module, expand that. And the permission that I want to mention is this one right here, the third one down, inspector. If this particular role was set at no access for this, when those personnel assigned to this role sign into ER and go to the occupancy records, they may be able to look at the data in here, but they won't be able to add anything into the inspections page within an occupancy record. So we want to make sure that they're set over to full access on this page and save it. And the other admin level function that I want to mention is agency friends. So if you want to borrow inspection forms, bring them into your account from somebody else, they have to set you up as an agency friend. You'll see who is set you up with agencies that you have access to, and you see I've got a couple here. And what you're looking for specifically in this roles is occupancy read only. That allows you to have access to those inspection forms. Now, agency friends are limited to within your state. In the event of our Department of Defense customers are out there today, as long as the state in your particular account is set to DD, you can pretty much use all of the DoD facilities worldwide. Now, in this particular account, you see I have some other states here. We have some magic we can do in the background and change an account from one state to the other on a temporary basis. But typically for you, it's going to be limited to your state. When you add an agency here, and this is what they would need to do for you, put their name in. It's matched up with the FD ID number, and then down here for occupancies, we want to select read only for that, and this sentence or two here will describe to you that you're sharing inspection forms when you set it up like that. So if you're a department down the road, you know the fire marshal, and he's got a really nice inspection form that you don't want to spend the time to replicate into your account, ask them to make you an agency friend, and then they'll share it with you using that process I just showed you a little bit ago. So given that information, I want to pause here and ask my guys, is anybody posting any questions we need to dive into?
Mark, I think we're all caught up. Let me double check here. There's a question about the importing the fire codes. Are you going to cover that today at all, or are we just going to?
Well, I'll mention it, but I really wasn't going to go into any detail with it today. So let's mention that on the admin page in the import section, you all should have the ability to import fire codes. We provide a template here at the top of the page, and you can add these codes manually as well if you need to. But with the template, we give you a CSV file. That's an Excel spreadsheet, but it's saved as a CSV file because all of our imports need to be saved that way. And you can drop all of your data into this and import it. Now, one important fact with the importation of your fire codes is the code title is an important field there. That's the only required field in the fire codes. Also, this has to be a unique value within all of the fire codes that you import. So within if your code that you're importing has the same title for the code, you'll have to differentiate it somehow. And that happens in some fire codes because we've got a book that may be 3 inches thick, and the same title for different code sections may be out there. So you have to be careful with that, and you import these. Now, a question we get all the time is, does emergency reporting have these templates already filled out that I can have to import? And the answer is no, because as a company, there's a decision made that we're not going to open ourselves to a risk for copyright infringement because some of these codes are copyrighted. But it's up to you guys to acquire them, and I would just ask you to freely share them with your contemporaries in your local region there, because it's probably the same code as well. That's how we get the codes in here that you can use and embed within your inspection forms, and it's in the occupancy settings. And I think it's a good question. Now, we do have plenty of material out there in our knowledge base, and we did do a virtual Thursday on fire codes. a while back that you can find in the Webinars on Demand section that covers basically all the processes of importing your fire codes. All right, let's move on here, and we're going to jump into an occupancy. I am going to pick one somewhat at random here, and we're going to go into it, and we're going to jump directly to the inspections tab or page in here, and go down a few important things in here for your inspections. First, if you have predetermined schedules that you want to rotate through in your inspections, you can add that inspection schedule, and you can also schedule a single inspection. Let's go ahead and add a schedule, and you'll see that we can put in what type of inspection we're going to do. We're just going to pick the annual. That's probably the most common one. And naturally, our frequency is going to be annually. You do have some other examples here that you can pick from on this page. And then your starting date. One of the things I push and teach is to, you want to consider maybe starting the inspections on the first day of a month, like May 1st. Even though it's on a Saturday, I'm going to add that into the schedule. And this ties in to a few things such as notifications. And also we can automatically, or just within a one mouse click, remove overdue inspections. Now, since I put that schedule in, and naturally, I mean, today's the 6th of May, so we're past the 1st of May. That's why we have that red background and that particular date for that scheduled inspections, because it's overdue. Now, that also ties in with homepage notifications. This is one of the biggest reasons why I like to do this. So I'm going to duplicate my tab here, and I'm going to jump to the homepage and display why we can do what we can do with that. And I'm going to go up to this change my notifications. And as you know, this is for you as an individual. And we're going to get down here to inspections, and we are going to select show details for my inspection information. And we're going to check this box to show overdue inspections. And just for today's purpose, I'm going to uncheck the scheduled inspections out into the future. And we are going to save this, and then we'll scroll down here a bit. This is when we have the details set. You can see now we have overdue inspections displayed in my homepage system notifications. Now you can apply additional filters. There's a filter on here. If you assign your inspections to a specific inspector, you can, and that's you can filter it to just the ones that are assigned to you that you see on this page and not any other ones. So it's a very, very useful tool just to get this information on my homepage. Now, if it's a brand new inspection here, so let's say we are needing to go look at this building for an inspection, we just select this edit pencil out here, and we'll go right to that page where we're going to start an inspection for the facility we just picked off the list. So matter of fact, while I'm here, let's go back over to the other page here. So that's how we would set the inspection schedule. Now you'll see the inspection schedule that you have here is displayed, and you can actually even layer additional inspection schedules on top of this if that's your case, that you may have them for that particular occupancy. And you can see down here we have no inspection history because we don't have any completed inspections. We don't have any inspection activity whatsoever. So that's where we're going to start next. Common question we get asked about the inspection schedules: can we do a bulk operation for that? And the answer is no, that is not a current feature that we have. You can go into our community forums. I'm sure that is in there as a bulk operation to schedule inspections, and put your notes in for us and put some votes on it if you think that's something that we need. All right, so the simple process here we're going to run through now is how do we record our data for this inspection? We're going to select the Start New Inspection button on the inspection page, and you will jump into page 1 of 4 for our inspection record. The current date and the actual time that you just created this will display here. Now you can edit this if you need to. Let's say I'm doing this record after I get back to the station, and maybe I didn't start it at 1430 hours. I started it actually at, let's say, 1400 hours. I can edit that time. I can also edit the date if I need to post date something as well. Now the inspector that's going to be displayed here is the person that's logged in, signed into the system. Now anyone that's in the admin module that I just showed you a little bit ago that has the permissions for inspections is going to be displayed in this particular list, and you can update that if you need to. So you could actually put in a record for someone else. We're going to leave my name in there today. The next field down is our inspection type that we're performing today, and we're going to be using the annual inspection, and then we're going to jump down to the inspection form that we're going to use, and I'm going to use that one I just created, this annual inspection version 2.3, and we have a section on here that we can put our contacts in from the contacts list that we have. Pick one or more of them, and we get done with this page. We want to select next and go to page 2. Now this system will save your data when we select next, or you can just, let's say you get a phone call, you want to make sure you're not going to lose data, save the page. Now we're going to go next. Now when we go next, this is going to be our inspection form that we create, and you can see we have our inspection questions broke down into the categories here, and we can go down through here and write up any write-ups that we have, mark our correct observation values. There's a couple different ways we can do this, and I'm going to show you that here as we go through it. Let's say I found a fire code violation. I am going to just select the fail, and you see I have a couple other ones just to demo the link to the fire code or the billable amounts with that. So if I mark it fail, you may use some different terminology that you put into your observation value list, and that's perfectly fine. That's why you can edit that to your needs. In this particular case, my practice was I was always write it up. So maybe we've got a door that's got an issue. I'm just going to shorten up my text a little bit just for the demonstration today. We give them some pretty specific remarks about what they need to do to become code compliant. And one of the nice items that we have here is that we can choose a file. So we can take photographs of the violation and go right here. And I've got a couple of files in here. Let's say we've got this exit door that's got some bars going across it, which here in the great state of Ohio is a fire code violation. We can add additional photographs here. There is no limit to individual numbers of the documents that you upload into here. However, there is a maximum file size of 20 megabytes on each one of those. So we could put multiple photographs in here if we need to document it like that. We'll just leave it like that for now and save it, and you'll see that my text I put in will be a red font. My photographs I put in will display here, and my observation value that I selected. Now this is where we get into that discussion of as a practice for you locally there with the observation values. My practice was I only marked up the violations that I observed here with an observation value. If for these other questions that they passed or had no violations, my practice was that I didn't put any text in or not make a selection. If you want to locally, there's no reason that you can't. Now to save you time with that, we do have a bulk operation here. So some of these categories and can have quite a number of questions in them. So we can set them up with the bulk operation here, just like what I'm doing now is check mark the ones that I want to do. And you can actually do the whole entire form at one time as well, or you can do it by sections or within a section, select individual questions. Let's slide back up to the top of the page, and you can see we can do a bulk complete for the ones that I've got selected, and let's set them to pass. And we'll save that, and you'll see we just marked all of them in a bulk operation. And those are the ones that I selected. It's kind of like a local decision on how you want to treat that. for me personally. I just thought it took me too much time, and I did not need to document every one of these, but it may be a requirement for you, or you just simply desire that. That is your call on that. So we get all of our inspection questions written up. When we find violations, mark the correct observation values, put everything in. We're going to select next and go on to page 3. We're going to finalize the document. I have in this particular account a requirement to enter the inspection ending a date and time. There we have a quick pick button now over here that we can pick. If we have additional time involved in our inspection, such as we're doing some code research, we can enter that in. Maybe we did that today and our time was, let's just, let me get to my time to put in correctly. And in this particular list on my screen, it's not sizing real well for me, so I'm going to zoom out a bit. Did a little bit of code research for maybe a few minutes here that I want to document. Put some notes in if it's appropriate, and there we have that. Now we do have a report that actually will pull that data now, which may be beneficial to you. That's how I would document all my time. If that's important to you, we have a total of 54 minutes in this particular inspection, 35 minutes in my field inspection, and another 19 minutes in that code research. Now with my inspection results, they had a fire code violation, so I will write that up as a correction notice issued. You may have some other terminology that you use, and that is perfectly fine. Now, if you remember correctly, with a correction notice issued, I'm required to do a follow-up inspection with that. I want to move on to page 4 to show you what happens if I don't manually schedule an inspection. Is on this page, it will not allow me to authorize the inspection because, simply stated, I have to manually schedule an inspection before I can authorize this. I can use that Go Finalize Inspection, and it'll take me back to page 3, and I schedule my single inspection, which is going to be a reinspection. Schedule it if appropriate. I'm just going to leave today's date on here, but we got some quick pick buttons down here. Typically we would maybe pick 30 days as your typical one. On the inspection schedule, which now also displays on page 3 down here, we can see this, the one that we're doing that's overdue, and the reinspection I manually scheduled is in here. That's what the system's looking for, is that text right there. So when we go to page 4, after we do some signature capture here, we're going to get the inspector signature and the representative at the occupancy signature, and you'll see that displayed here. Get their name put in, and we're going to go ahead and save that. And now we're going to move on to page 4. Remember, with that signature capture, you always have the option to do that, but you have to have that options in the inspection form enabled to be able to see it. So here's my inspection result on page 4. I've issued a correction notice. I can go ahead and authorize it, and being that I have an overdue inspection, I can remove all of them, or I can select which ones I want to remove off this. That's why I would schedule it for the first day of a month, because it would be somewhat rare in many departments to get there on the day it's scheduled, because it seems like we're always a little bit behind. Let's just go ahead and select save, and you'll see here in a moment that it removed that overdue inspection from the schedule. In this particular case, the best practice that we're going to talk about is sending a report via email. So we'll select that button, and we will typically uncheck the show unanswered questions selection here, because you may have a lengthy inspection form. The typical one I have that I use in this particular account, if I print it out without even any violations written up, is I think 22 or 24 pages. So we want to just send them the results that we want to. Typically, the ones they need to know is which ones they failed. So we'll update these appropriately, our observations that we're sending them. We'll compose that email. So we're going to add the person from our contact. And you can see if they have an email address in their contact information, it's going to pre-populate here your email address as the inspector. As long as you have it in your contacts, it's going to display here automatically. So no additional text to put in. We can add additional recipients here from their contacts, or just type in if we need to send it to somebody else. You could send this to a number of contacts at the occupancy. Our subject line inspection results, we do have a option that you can put some text in other than that. You can type in an additional message on this particular page. And a newer feature here is we can update and send them an additional file. So let's say we need to send them some other document. We can attach that right here. So when we send this email out, we're going to be sending them their observation report and that document we added to it. And we're going to shoot it out by selecting send email. Oh, let me remove that. It knows that we have that other contact here and we need to put an email address in. So I've removed that, and now we're shooting this out via email, and off it goes electronically. And this actually will hit them fairly quickly. And then we're going to close this. Typically that goes out within 30 to 60 seconds. So now you can see my inspection schedule. That overdue inspection was removed. My manually scheduled one is displayed there. And my inspection record is down here in inspection history. So expect that inspection history to build. Every time you put a record in, it's going to add one here. Now with the settings I have, it's requiring me to do a follow-up inspection. I get this button here in the inspection history to do a follow-up inspection. So whether you have the that you're allowing it or requiring a follow-up inspection, you will get this link. And when you go back in, let's say it's 30 days into the future, all I have to do is go into the occupancy inspections tab, select that link, and we're going to create a new inspection. Of course we want to. We'll go back in. So this is now a reinspection. Let's say we'll go into next here to our form, and anything I wrote up, any observation values I put in, any notes I put in, any photographs I put in are available here for you to look at, and we can update this. So let's say they corrected this. I always like to recommend in your account for your observation values that you put one in that is something like violation corrected. So we know that they fixed it, and we can pull stats off of that. Actually, we can add notes to it. We can take another photograph and add it here, whatever is appropriate, and go ahead and save it. And you'll see we have that violation corrected noted, and we'll continue down our form. If we still have the ones that are in a failure status of a code violation still exists, we can leave them alone, and we can set this for another reinspection down the road on the next page if that's appropriate. In this particular case, we're going to clear this out and say they fixed everything. And our inspection results now would be that it passed. With that inspection result, I do not have to schedule a single inspection in this case. So we're just going to go ahead and, before I go to the next page, get my signature capture going here. And in a moment here, I'm going to turn on my email, and we'll see what this looks like, what we get in via email. And we're going to select next here, go to page 4, authorize it. I'm going to remove that inspection that we had scheduled for today on there. And then we can send that report out by email. Oh, by the way, you can actually print it on the paper as well from this particular page. Let's just go ahead and send it out via email again. In this case, we're going to just select the violation corrected observation value to send out. Get our contact put in. And not going to add the file this time, just simply send the email out and off we go. Sounds pretty simple, right? Okay, we get the little banner at the top that the email was sent, and we're going to close that. I want to show you one other feature here before I go look at the emails. Is let's say you get a request, public records request, or the occupant itself is requesting an additional copy of the form. We don't have to unlock the form. We can go to the inspection page within the occupancy record, and we can either email it or print it out, and we can display, you know, what we want to show them on it, and select view and print, and then it will pop up here as a PDF document that we can print out onto paper for them with all of our notes. Signature capture, so that's what it looks like on that particular form by using signature capture and not having the signature line displayed here. So that is, I think, the basics in the material we wanted to cover today. Let's go in here and I'll turn this on, and we're going to grab that, move it over here, and you can see actually I do have both emails are already in my email inbox. The first one I sent out here. Now, you as the inspector, you're going to get a copy of this to your email address, and the occupant contact that you occupancy contact you sent it to will get one. So their inspection report is here, and if we add another document, it will be here as well. We'll just open this to show you what it looks like. This is what they received, and this is going to be a 2-page inspection form. My next inspection date, since I selected that option, all my times here, everything I wrote up to show them, and all the signatures are here. So we are there. So guys, how's everything looking on the question front?
Hey, Mark, we're getting some really good questions. I think we've been able to answer the majority of them. We're waiting to get an update from one of the participants. He asked the question, how do you get it to result on InspectER when you have some pass and some fail on reinspection? So I'm going to seek a little, I requested a little more clarification on that one. Also, don't forget BI basic occupancies. There's some good way to pull your data out. One of the questions was, how do you query a list of all open violations or occupancies with actual violations that show fail? There's a couple reports, or at least one report in the system, 1785, that can be helpful, but also take a peek at BI basic and analytics, BI basic, and then the occupancies component. That may be helpful to you.
Absolutely. So I was going to cover that before we closed up. So as you can see, I'm scrolling on the reports page for inspections. We have quite a number of them in here that you can see. We haven't broke down for you.
And Mark, you may have mentioned this, but one thing I've found recently, and again, you may have mentioned it, I was cranking through the questions, but if your agency bills for violations, Mark showed you how to set all that up, right, for the billable line items and so forth within the observation values. But one thing you can do on the email is you could bring in like finance@cityoftucson.com or .org.gov, for example, and quickly send the inspection results with the total owed to your finance department, if you have one, of course, and then they can begin processing using your municipalities or your community's QuickBooks type accounting program, invoicing program. Just a consideration, because we do get a lot of questions about, oh, do you do invoicing? And technically no, because we're not an accounting program to manage that. We do to communicate what a customer might owe for an inspection, but not full-blown invoicing.
Correct. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I'll jump into that for a moment. That is a quite frequent question that we get. In that particular case, what Tom was mentioning, that report 1785 may be what you need because it includes with violations. So our inspections with violations section of this, you may find very useful for that Number of them parked in here. Let's just go take a look at 1785 real quick, and we'll just do it for the month of May. No filtering, and you'll take a look at what this report looks like. And let me go ahead and download it. And now this particular report, since I did not filter it, I'm seeing all my past observations. I might want to filter it just to show my fail for that example. Gives me the zone, first of all, the occupancy name, contact number, date, what type, what was the inspection result. My notes that I put in would be displayed here. All my questions with observations are displayed here. And you can see we've got the reinspection displayed here too. So that's a good example of that particular report. Excuse me. So what Tom was mentioning with, if you do the billing operation within your department, you need to send this information to your finance department to send the actual bill out. What you could do is this, is go into the contact list and add your billing department. And maybe it's this city billing or finance department, whatever they use. Contact type, put them in as a city billing, for example. And just make sure that you put an email address in for them. Because within the inspection itself on page 4 of that, you can send the results to more than one contact. And if you have your billing department put in as a contact with an email address very, very quickly, and send them that inspection record, and if you have everything set up on that form, it's going to show them exactly what billable amounts they need to send that bill out for. That's what Tom was mentioning there. Thank you for that. Also, let's go in and look at analytics, basic BI. We're not going to do a deep dive into this. However, the occupancy report is available here in the BI basic. And we have tons and tons of data in here. Now, one thing I like to mention, we really need to mention, is that this BI basic gets updated once a day. It happens at 8 p.m. Pacific time. So if I did inspection activities today in here, it's not going to display. It's only going to be the ones that were updated at 8 p.m. yesterday. I can look at occupancy counts, types, when they were their last inspected. I've got a number here. This is a testing account. This is not a live customer account. So no, we don't touch a lot of them in here. Our fire protection system categories that we have attached to them will be listed down here. Some good numbers. We give the map where they're located. That one over here, if Oliver is still with us out there as an attendee today, that is out there, I believe, at the U.S. Army Garrison Rhineland Falls. And welcome to the presentation today, by the way, Oliver. That one is one that was unknown. It went to 0, 0 or -1, -1 at the equator out there. So you can see the other ones scattered about on the map. We have a lot of features on here that we can't really go into today. I'm just going to show you the various pages basically. So we have occupancy counts. The next page over is inspection counts. So as you can see in this particular case, we have 64 inspections. And the date range here, we have some slicers I'll show you in just a moment. NFPA 1500 monthly inspections, re-inspections, and so forth of all of our inspections by inspection type. The number of inspections with the inspection result displayed here. Data on specific inspectors. And we're on the number of inspections. We can go to like average duration on this page, and this is dynamically changed, and we can use what we call slicers and filters. So we're looking at a particular day here. And you can see a mouse over that. We get a heat map basically. So we've got a whole lot of these on. It looks like July 31st. Let's go on to the inspection observations. So you can see here we have a lot that have passed. Some of them have failed, and the other observations we have. Charts on the page. We can even go to this with full screen. There is an amazing amount of data that is displayed here on the various pages. Let's go back and look at the inspection tree. I'll show you a few more features, and then we'll probably visit questions one last time, and then put it in the record books here. But you can see here, we're looking at inspections on our inspection tree. Let's just say we're going by inspection type, so we're breaking it out by the inspection types we've done. We can further go into these items here, like our inspectors is next. Who did the inspections? And we'll pick on myself. And how many categories did we go into with the code books and the inspection forms that we have out there? And we keep on going down this tree and just mine some amazing data out of here. How many different zones we went into. And just keep on going down the tree, just like that. Now, a few options we have here. Slicers. Let's go to slicers. Think of filters when we're talking about slicers here. Now, the default date range in here, we're looking at data from January 1, 2018 to the end of this calendar year. You can update that. Let's say, oh, I just want to look at last month. We'll put the starting and ending date in. We can slice that out by inspection type if we want to. So when I update this particular page, you'll see all this data update right there. That's the slicers. We can go to the details page. It will look at a little bit different presentation. So details is going to give me basically a chart here, a grid, so to speak. What we have, we can go to the various pages, which are the same ones that are down at the bottom of the page. And we are actually displaying archived occupancies, so we may want to hide the archived occupancies. So this information is available at your fingertips. A lot of folks are starting to use the BI Basic. Please dive into it. We've done a presentation a while back on this. Our team, we actually had a meeting with them earlier today, and they're constantly adding and updating features on here, and it's been an amazing amount of work they're doing with this, and we would really appreciate everything they're doing for this, because it's helping you folks out and pulling data out of the system. We can put data in this system all day long, but it does us absolutely no good until we can pull it out in a meaningful manner, and this is one way that we can do that with the BI Basic. And BI Basic, just one last couple words about it, is you, depending on your account, you should have this. If you don't have EMS, you won't have the EMS stats, but you should have incident, occupancy, maintenance, and training sections in here that you can work with your data. So, okay, guys, we're nearing time. I want to visit any unanswered questions or other comments you guys have before we put it into the record book.
Hey, Mark. Jason brought up a point, or kind of a question earlier, and this is something that trips a lot of people up. If you're conducting an inspection before the actual scheduled date, you will need to manually remove that inspection once you've conducted it. If you're doing it on the date or after the date, it will prompt you and ask you to remove it. But if you are, for example, if I had an inspection scheduled the 10th, I had a slow day, I can do it today, I will need to manually remove that inspection from my schedule.
Right, that is a very good point here. So what he's talking about is in here. So I have an inspection scheduled for next year on May 1st. If I happen to go in there on April 30th, 2022 to do that inspection, I won't get that option to remove it when I go to page 4 of the inspection form. I have to come in and manually delete that. And you can do that within page 3 of the inspection form as well. So yeah, that's a good point, James. Thank you for bringing that up. No,
Mark, it's Tom. Got a couple quick things here. One from Scott. On the ticket you submitted, I did look it up, and so you have a support ticket, and we create, if there's a bug and it's not something that we can overcome by teaching or something in the system, there's a development team has a bug ticket written up to find out what the cause is and hopefully get a fix out. So you are still listed, and we'll receive notifications once that fix is deployed. And I noticed another one of yours in there. There is no user manual for ER anymore. The system's too complex to have one single document. So it's all, we direct people to the knowledge base articles, but there will be an enhancement coming by the end of the year to the help pages that I think everyone is going to be very grateful to have. So we'll be announcing that by the end of the year.
Perfect. That's a good reminder, Tom. We just encourage everybody, especially you folks at the admin level in your department, to get a sign in, a login credentials for our support page. Don't hesitate to go there. It doesn't cost anything extra. And to go to the knowledge base. Everything we talked about today is in there, and everything else. There are somewhere in the neighborhood of 750 knowledge base articles in there.
One last question before you wrap, Mark, from Michael. Instead of typing it back to him, I'm just going to verbalize it. Will they be working on the interface to make it work better with iOS, or is there a trick to make it more iOS friendly? And I assume you're mentioning the web app, the main system everybody goes to, and the answer to it is yes. As we mark, the inspection module is one of them. As we move to the new security protocols and the enhancements to the system and the user interface, part of the intent is to make it adaptive design, so it knows the form factor size of the device that you're on. And we do know that there is still an outstanding issue with scrolling on PDF documents within iOS. So that's a known issue being worked on. But yeah, they're recognizing that more and more people are working exclusively on mobile devices, and that's part of our plan for enhancing the system in the months ahead.
Okay, perfect, Tom. Thank you very much. We'd like to thank everybody for attending today. I want to especially thank my co-workers, Tom, James, Greg, and I did not look to see if Mike came on with us, if he was able to today. I thank everybody for jumping in and helping out with the presentation today. And most importantly, thank you for being emergency reporting customers. As James says, I'm going to steal your tagline, James, is we know you have choices out there, and we are happy that you've chosen emergency reporting. So with that, we're going to put it in the record book. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.